During the final episodes of The Mandalorian, we come across a new character known as Moff Gideon. Not much is known about him in episode 7 other than that he served the Galactic Empire and at some point had achieved the rank of Moff. In episode 8, we learn a little bit more about Moff Gideon. We learned that he participated in the Great Purge that took place right before the events of A New Hope. The Great Purge was an event that took place on Mandalore between the Mandalorians and the Empire. What resulted was in the collection of Beskar and the death of most Mandalorians. Those who survived went into hiding, like the ones we see on Navarro. Now, towards the end of the episode, Moff Gideon and Din Djarin face off against each other, TIE Fighter versus Jetpack. Ultimately, Din Djarin comes out as the victor and takes out the child off world to find its home world. The way the TIE Fighter plummets back to the ground, I had a gut feeling that Moff Gideon was not dead. We didn't see like a big explosion uh like we normally do in Star Wars. In the final scene, this blew me away. We see him cut through the TIE Fighter using the Dark Saber, which when I first saw it blew me away because I was not expecting to see the Dark Saber in a live action TV series. But considering that this TV series is about the Mandalorian, I guess I guess you could expect to be seeing the Dark Saber because originally the Dark Saber was created by a Mandalorian. Now, this raises some questions on how Moff Gideon came to acquire the Dark Saber. During the beginning of the episode, we find out that Moff Gideon knows who Din Djarin is. We learn that Moff Gideon was possibly at the siege of Mandalore and participated in the Great Purge, which at the time he was an ISB officer during the Purge. Din Djarin explains that this is how Moff Gideon knows who he is. Now, this scene, this was probably in the first 10 minutes, right before we saw the flashback, and right after we saw the flashback. It gets confusing because Mando first it says that actually no, let me backtrack. Moff Gideon talks about the siege of Mandalore, and Mando says he hasn't heard that name since he was a child. So I was like, okay, maybe he knows him from the Clone Wars during the siege of Mandalore. But then after the flashback, he also says that Moff Gideon was an ISB officer during the Great Purge, which was after the Clone Wars and during the Galactic Empire. So that part kind of confused me a little bit, but I think it's safe to say that he knows him, or Moff Gideon knows who Din Djarin is through the Great Purge, and he goes on to explain that this is how Moff Gideon knows who he is. Now, and maybe at the time Moff Gideon was tasked into learning every Mandalorian survivor, such as their family history or personal information, by studying the Mandalorian registry. That's what an ISB uh, officer is, or I forget what the ISB means, but I know what it is, but I forgot the actual name for it. But they're like a secret, well, not secret, but they're like an intelligent agency for the Empire. Um, and yeah, and similarly, like how the Grand Inquisitor studied all of the Jedi archives to locate the Saurian Jedi. I thought when I first saw him, I was like, oh, he's giving some Inquisitor vibes, black suit, black cape, but he's not an Inquisitor. But I thought that look was pretty cool. Now, as how he got his hands on the saber, I'm certain it was during the Great Purge. The last time we saw the Dark Saber was in Rebels when Sabine Wren gave the saber to Bo Katan, as she did not want to become the leader of Mandalore and preferred her to become the leader. Um, I can assume that during the Purge, Gideon fought Bo-Katan, killed her, and took the Dark Saber as his own. I think that's the most likely scenario, but this is all speculation because we don't know yet. Season 2 hasn't come out. Um, however, um, that won't happen unless if Bo-Katan gave the saber to someone else or lost it in battle. Who knows? But I think by the time season 2 is out, we may learn more about who. Well, I mean, we kind of know who Moff Gideon is, but we may learn more about how he came into possession of the dark saber in season 2.